restart the stream, and I'm gonna restate the stuff like that. Okay, so last one. So just to recap, last Wednesday we were practicing a method of drawing that involved using these kind of like oblong bone-like shapes like this for the limbs, and also like kind of for the torso, and also like co-related modular shapes and other things like that, in order to create like figures. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, here's some of the ones that we did from last Wednesday. So it's a lot more rough because I was kind of like working out this method a bit and stuff for the session. Oops, some other stuff here. Yeah, it's like this kind of stuff. And this kind of stuff here. It's a very modular method of drawing, where like you treat the figure like a 3D puppet, basically. It's mannequinization, pretty much. It's a form of mannequinization, and these look not too dissimilar from like some of the figure reference puppets that you'll see, like like they make for manga artists and stuff. But basically, this guy is made functionally out of like these kind of limbs that are these limbs and other shapes that are sort of like it's kind of like, it's almost kind of like you roll a clay log, and it's sort of pinched in the middle a little bit. And the reason it's like that is because then you can tell at a glance how foreshortened these things are. Like, let me show you. Like, if it's like this, if these bulges are further apart here, you know this thing is pretty stretched out. But if it's like that, you know this thing's foreshortened now. You can also like reinforce that with like, this one's got like ellipses going over it that way, but then when it's like this, the ellipses go more like a circle almost over the side here. That's functionally the same limb, just squished inward here. Look here, we got, this could be potentially like a base of a hand or something like that. Here it is again here. Turn more towards us. Now you see, you use principles of overlapping shapes, deciding what direction things are facing, intersecting shapes. You should also be looking for an overall kind of flow. Like, even if you don't necessarily draw a line of action, there should be kind of an embedded sense of an overall flow to doing these stuff, and that's for you to play with. Okay, Google, stop. So these are some more warm-ups that I did yesterday, and then some from today. This is me trying to insert more anatomical stuff. Thumb's a little bit lower than it should be. You can see like that, there's this kind of awkwardness with these, but like, it's a lot easier to identify my anatomical errors in this, and when I'm using this method. This right here is an evolved version of these puppets where I'm trying to insert more anatomy into this. What's cool about this is like because it's a very clean way of drawing, it very quickly exposes your weakness. Like, for example, I dipped this shoulder a little bit too low here, and there's some proportional issues with the arms and stuff. Let's see, let's move on. You can see some more stuff of me like trying to layer more anatomy bits into there. You can carve into these shapes because they're like clay on it, kind of. You can use them as a starting point to get the figure working in space, but then you may severely modify it when you actually like do the drawing that you're using the puppet for. Like here's an example right here. Like, I originally started with this shape here, but then I carved into it with this here to make it closer to like a wrist, for example. But this method is like, you can be really slow, methodical with it, or you can be fast and loose with it. These are much more slow and methodical ones where I'm trying to be more deliberate and sculptural with it. And it's cool for those of you who have like a stanky hand, stanky arm, or whatever when you're trying to draw. These things are an opportunity to really slow down. Like here, check out this ellipse right here. I drew a perfect ellipse here almost. That's almost perfectly like this is just one line right here, or not ellipse, but perfect oblong, or whatever that thing's called, that regular shape. You can practice these a bunch. Just practicing these a lot, like, will increase your three-dimensional spatial awareness and stuff. Then you can go back over them and add, like, oh, I'm deciding that this is the direction this thing's going, or something like that. You wrapping lines over the form helps you determine what direction it's pointed. If I were to wrap the lines in the opposite direction on this, I could make it seem like this is going away from us instead of going towards us. Like, let me show you. Do an oblong down here. So I'll duplicate this. So we want this one to seem like it's coming towards us, and that one to going away from us. We do this. And then if we want the opposite, then we do this. And you want to picture in your mind's eye how this thing works three-dimensionally as you're doing this. Oh, and let's see here. And if you wanted it in neutral, you can do something like, you can do something that's a little bit flatter. You get the idea. Like, when the way ellipses work, the more you turn them in space, the flatter they get and stuff. And those are ellipses basically over the form, more or less. I mean, if we did the X-ray view on these, it'd be like this. But these are the kind of the building blocks of what we're using today. There's also other forms, like I'm kind of using these for like knee and elbow joints a little bit. It's a little kind of weird, weird wedge shape. But want to leave it to you guys to experiment with creating different shapes and stuff. These modular 3D shapes. Yeah. And again, like, because these are so modular, like anytime something looks kind of off to you, like on this, for example, I'm not really too much of a fan of how this arm is placed currently. You can treat it like a 3D model and adjust. A little foreshortening there, that flat on the upper arm there. This is an example. I'm going to reverse that one though. See, there's some examples here that I did somewhere. Here we go. Okay, so this one, I did this one just freehand for fun, right here, just interlocking shapes, playing with taking it a little further. I notice there's like some issues I have with making the torso a little flat, the upper torso a little flat, actually the whole thing a little flat. So I think I got to pay attention to the side plane a bit more on the top plane of the torso bits, but the torso shape. But in any case, like some of the things I did here, you can see for the mannequinization, I used spheres here for simplifying the hip joint. Basically, I used spheres here also for the knee joint, and added like these two kind of flat ellipses flat spheres or egg shapes to the kneecap, because the kneecap is like kind of a couple bones, something like that. The kneecap and another bone like there, sort of like that. See the elbow joint thingy that I've been using. I generally like to use 2 pieces for the foot. Something like that. Where this is planted on the ground, that's planted on the ground like that. But anyway, the proportions in this guy were a little funky to me. That I noticed when I zoomed back. They're still a little bit more funky. I think that thigh is a little long, so I could adjust that too potentially. But the main thing I needed to adjust was the arms. The arms are a little large. So you can see I took the lasso tool to this guy and I shrank the arms a bit. On this guy right here, like the head's a little large, so I could potentially shrink that. But yeah, like this method right here that we were using today, this is modular with just about anything else you want to use it with. You can see right here I used it with a Loomis head. And you can see me inserting more stuff that kind of looks a little bit more like anatomy a bit in here. There's actually parts of him that look kind of like Andrew Loomis figure, now that I'm looking at it. But when you're doing stuff like this, it'd be a good idea to have like a whole bunch of figure and anatomy reference near you, so you can kind of like sort of absorb it as you're going through it. And that's also why I have this stuff on screen right here. This is, I'm going to link this specifically here. This was for, well, this is for the character anatomy shoulder section here. They just had, I scrolled down here and they just happen to have some good stuff with like arms and so on. But in any case, this is for an account right here that I've been sharing stuff with, character design references. It's a really, really good account. Okay. What's up with my Twitch chat? Give me a second, folks. There's something weird going on here. Let me just test something. Test.
I can hear you, Spacedad.
Okay, my OBS is posting to the wrong room in the chat. It's really weird. Shouldn't be that big of a problem, but this is kind of strange. I have Stream Manager open so I can see my ordinary chat. That's really odd. I think it's going to the last place I rated because I didn't close my my stream last time. Anyway, so whatever. Really bizarre. So let's keep going. Anyway, so I wanted to post in chat this. That's going in Twitch chat, and I'm going to post this in the drawing corner also. Also, if you have homework to share, it's going to be kind of scuffed, but DM the homework to me. We'll do it that way this time. If you have homework to share, just DM the homework to me. The 100 figure homework that I originally assigned that we added an extra almost a week extension to that thing. If you have homework from that, try to get like your best page of figures and submit it to me. I don't necessarily want everything. Just give me like your best page that you would want feedback on.
I was gonna say 100 figures per person seems a bit dicey.
Yeah, well, we did have like a lot of time to do it. I wanted people to do as much of that as they're able to. But in any case, like, so this method of drawing right here, like, it's pretty easy for me to track weight and other things like that. And I want to keep evolving this approach. And I hope other people are able to kind of pull together some kind of an approach that feeds a little bit off of what I'm trying to get out of this. Because this is something that came out of originally like me doing Bern Hogarth hand studies and stuff, and I've sort of basically kind of built how I draw the figures out of what I was doing with the Bern Hogarth hand studies. Yeah, we've been doing like almost non-stop gesture drawing for like almost a year now. There's been like some structure stuff, but not really that much. This is very much pushed more in the direction of structure and volume. It's not as like concrete structure yet, but this is much more structured. And because a lot of us have the foundation, because a lot of us have the foundation of doing the gesture, this is going to be something for a lot of people to wrap their heads around with proportion, and they're going to be able to use something like this to gauge the measurements in their figures and stuff, and to plot out like these. The gesture drives the physical thing that we're making, basically. Like, gesture is the idea of the pose. The structure, shape, and volume is the physical space that the pose occupies, basically. So, but in order to get good drawing, good dynamic drawing and stuff, we need a system of shapes that has gesture embedded in it. And something like this is very, very modular and conducive towards that. Like it's very flowy, organic shapes. You can improvise with it. These don't have to be perfect shapes. You are not making perfect anatomical shapes. You're allowed to play with and distort these things however you see fit. Like you can see the very precise way I'm drawing them right now. Put that out of your head if you have to make it look exactly like that. You can get like really kind of loosey-goosey with them and stuff. You can make them like big old dumpy clay logs and stuff and draw them really quickly. I want you to start playing with them because I want you to start picturing using them in your mind's eye. This or something like it. I want you to find something that works for you for being able to interpret 3D shapes and use them as like a sculptor's tool of some kind. So as you can see, like when I'm doing these, I'm trying to think three-dimensionally as I put them together. Like, what direction is this thing going, and what direction is that thing going? When I add a shape here, what direction is it supposed to be going in? Like, for example, okay, I drew this shape. All right, so there's different ways I could do it. I could add something here and make it a limb that way. I could add a limb here, make it go in that way. Because this is non-specific, and I can modify this as I see fit. I could make this, I could say that this is a really long torso or something. Like, look at that. See? Just a really long torso. Or I could say this is a close-up of a finger and a knuckle. Let's maybe do something like this for that. Like this, maybe. More like... There we go, that's more like a finger bone, kind of. See, I just made a finger bone. I could have made this into a limb. I could have done something like that. I'm just gonna draw a shitty hand here just to... No shitty hands tonight. Sorry. We're not going back. We're going forward. No more shitty short-handed hands. I have to go walk through the procedure that I'm using to do hands now. Quick one there. See, I could have made that to a limb, I could have made that to a leg. That's like a finger bone with this thing here, it's an arm with that right there. Could have been a torso. Put a couple upper arm pieces there and a head there. So I look like a Swiss Army person right now. But you get the idea, like... Oh, and, let's say I wanted to make a multi-limb character. There we go. You could potentially use this to draw anything. So this gives you like a starting point, essentially. Something to really like wrap your head around these things working in 3D space, basically. When you start thinking in terms of this as if you're like building with a bunch of clay Legos, and you can just like snap any piece in there that you want. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then it just becomes about posing it out. Because you know what, you can always go back in as like a surgeon to build anatomy into these shapes that you've established. The important thing is like get these kind of feeling like they're working in 3D space a bit. Yeah, see, you can pretty much use these to draw just about anything. Like, I could even see these being used for draws like certain kinds of machinery as well. More kind of like deliberately mechanical forms, you could probably use more kind of boxy shapes or something potentially. We might explore that in a future session. We've played with bendy boxes before, but I think approaching like boxes with a mindset like this and using this as an evolution of what we're doing here might produce some very interesting results next week. So, like this kind of stuff might be where we head next with adding to this method. So we did kind of go over the 20-minute time, but that's okay because I've been showing you off this method of how doing this. So we're officially on a 5-minute break right now. Okay, Google, set timer 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
But tonight, the name of the game is going to be, I want people to play more with this method. You can use the on-screen photo reference. You can invent. You can check out the character design reference. I would strongly recommend checking that out. Stuff. That Pinterest account I linked in the drawing corner and in Twitch. There's tons and tons of stuff there. It was provided to me by by a story artist pal who looks at that stuff for a lot of inspiration. Apparently, that account in particular is used by a lot of folks in the industry. I also might talk a little bit about the hand, because it looks like we're probably going to be doing a hand-focused session sometime this week. But you'll notice that like I'm doing a lot of hand drawing that involves like drawing like the hand bones themselves, because for me, like thinking about those structures and the internal structure of what's happening inside the palm kind of helps me wrap my head around how the hand works a little better. We're not going to get terribly technical with it tonight, but I'll talk a little bit about the proportions of the hand and stuff, or the structure of the hand. But if you really want to get good with hands, one of the best resources on hands is Dynamic Hands by Bern Hogarth. That is a book I strongly recommend checking out. You can also like do a Google image search to find a bunch of his hands if you don't have access to the book. And reading his book is partly what kind of reading and trying to imitate what he's doing in his book is sort of what kicked off this approach to drawing for me.
So I'm not 100% sure if I'm grasping the figure shape that you're showing.
It's okay if you're not. This is something that you're going to need to play with on your own time. Specifically, like you kind of need to wrap your head around how the actual shapes work in 3D space and stuff. Like everything else from there is kind of just observation with how figures work.
Is it possible to get like a quick spot check?
How so?
Just to kind of get a rough idea if I'm actually playing with this correctly. Or if there's something like key about the way that you're doing the shapes that I'm not quite grasping.
Oh, I've had time to kind of practice and observe, but well, I think you're making them way too complicated and too scribbly. I would want you to, let me bring this here. I want you to I want you to like do a lot of these drills. Try to do like continual line shapes. Maybe go over and follow the line several times. You're doing these very simple. This sketchy stuff. We don't want this. We don't want sketchy, overcomplicated stuff. We want big volumetric shapes. Big, simple volumetric shapes, and we want the confidence to be able to interlink them together. Like, for example, I chose this one here because we got kind of a little bit of a line of action going on here that I didn't draw out, but I can kind of see. So I created a shape over here that kind of complements that, as if it's like an arm or a limb reaching out. And I can do one up over here. Or like that's like the hand palm. That's like the hand of the palm. And add like these here for the knuckles, and so on. So I want you playing with this. I want you to play with these simple shapes. I would even say like maybe it would be a good idea to like just limit it to just oblong shapes and maybe like try interlocking them into limbs. You can concentrate on just limbs for a little while, for example. Or if you want to, you can just concentrate just on torsos. like this, for example. And then you can kind of like bring in the limbs when you feel right about them, like that. Like this is a little bit of a riff on what we're seeing on screen right now, with the jogger there. And it's up to you how much of your powers of observation you use to push the shapes around and pay attention to what the model's doing, or how much you want to play with it and stuff, how accurate you want to get with it. I would hopefully want you to do a mix of like trying to play with it and also trying to be accurate to what the post is doing. But treat these like sculptures and try to commit to a shape when you make it. Although you can fix it. These are modular and they're made to be simple and easy to fix. I'm gonna leave these on your page here, but let me know if you need me to turn them off. Actually, I'll give ownership of this to you, so you can see layer, assign layer 2, right? Okay, there we go. So now you have control of that layer, so you can turn it off if you need. But
okay.
But I want you doing very simple shapes. And simple. This is like if you've ever seen Karate Kid.
Mm-hmm.
This is the wax on, wax off exercise, basically. I want you to exercise. I want you to use these shapes to exercise control. You can do them. You can do them sketchy, but I want confidence even in that sketchiness and playfulness. Like you can see, you're not going to necessarily get them as controlled as I've been making them. Like when I was doing them Wednesday, these were very loose right here. But then I had time to really kind of think about them and practice the motion and practice the muscle memory in my hand and stuff, or my arm actually. That's the other. Okay, Google, stop. Sorry about that. I had so like these are all drawn with my shoulder. I did not use my wrist at all for any of these. I drew all of these using the motion from my shoulder, of my whole arm, stuff. Do not use your wrist to draw these, folks. And these shapes are made for you to use your shoulder with. And it starts to feel good if you're doing it right after a while, because it's a dexterity building tool. Drawing these kinds of shapes, and that is not something that I came up with, by the way. That's something that actually shows up in like Glenn Vilppu's drawing manual and other places and stuff. But this kind of method of like doing these controlled volumetric shapes is a hand-eye dexterity exercise as much as it is a means to approach your drawing. So we're going to keep doing that tonight. We're going to be doing a mix of stuff from the pose reference on screen and figure invention and playfulness and stuff. I'm kind of keen to keep inventing because I'm having a lot of fun with invention, so I'm going to be favoring that tonight. But if I feel like I need to, I may dip more into observation. So we are officially back from our break. I'm going to start another drawing set. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, it's good enough. So we'll have a little extra time on this pose. But I want you to use these. I want everyone here who's doing this. I want you like practicing like control. Oh, look at that. Look how I did that. Jeez. I want you to practice control with these. Like, these are fun modular shapes that you can add more shapes to and more intersecting points to, and like add combine with different ideas or sculpt and carve into them and stuff. This is a very controlled shape. You can do these sketchier too if you like, but as long as you're exercising a measure of confidence. Let me see if I can find an example of. Okay, so like you're doing it more sketchy and stuff, it might be like something a little more like this. You might do a little spillover and stuff, but it might be a little more playful because you're kind of searching the shapes some more. Something like that. That would be like an example of a more sketchy version of this. your hand's more active. These ones where your hand is a lot slower are going to be a lot more cleaner inherently. You could potentially, like, you could start with something like this, and oh, let's say I want to do something like this, then I'll just go back over with a darker line like that. But what I like doing is, like, after I've done this, for example, if I want to, like, darken parts of it to make it pop, like these right here, I might do that. Experiment with what makes it pop more and what doesn't, and so on. Remember, you can treat the torso as like as one of these shapes too, like that. For example, just throw a center line down, or I don't know, like a back line. There's the butt back there. Just adjust that spine because the spine seems a bit off. Like I said, like you can tell at a glance when you start getting more into this if something seems a bit off too. But like, one of the things that you notice that I'm kind of avoiding doing is I'm avoiding right angles like this. That's just how I'm drawing right now. I might introduce these into something later, but we'll see. For now, this kind of like flowy way of drawing is kind of working for me, so I'm going to keep going with it. But I may introduce like little like hard edges and hard cubes and stuff. Like, for example, something like this down here. That blob could be resting on top of a cube at some point. Like, let's say I wanted to handle the pelvis as a cube, but the torso and the rib cage as a blobby shape, like something like that. It might look something like this. Yeah, this is this drawing these shapes like this is secretly a way for you to start playing with your spatial awareness, and your brain will start filling in the gaps like of stuff you draw a lot more. I'm definitely getting that with what I'm doing. Like, I didn't need to draw a if you notice for this, I didn't need to draw like an egg-shaped ribcage because I kind of visualized it already. I didn't need to draw that cube to the bottom of the torso, bottom of the pelvis when I put this in here. I did add this later, but I added that later. I kind of already visualized this right here because I've been warming up using these methods the last few days, paying attention to and exercising my spatial awareness and stuff. So I'm starting to be able to, like, without drawing a scaffold for something, be able to infer those shapes. That doesn't mean avoid drawing scaffolds at all times, but it does mean that you can take off the training wheels a little bit more confidently. And always remember, these shapes that you're drawing, they occupy a 3D space. They occupy a 3D plane. They're coming towards you in parts and going away from you, or they're running parallel to you, or they're going towards something. It's up to you to figure out what that is and play with it, see what happens if you try certain things. Yeah, these are fellow fun and satisfying to do, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to modularly like evolve them, so that like the way I approach anatomy is going to be a natural, like more complex anatomy is going to be a natural extension of this. I'm good with this page now. So this is probably not the best hand demo here, but I can use this guy to talk about a few things. Like I got some things wrong here. This is like a quick sketch, but we're gonna get more in depth with hands next week. But generally speaking, like this is generally equidistant to this, basically like the bottom of the wrist to the top of the middle finger knuckle is equidistant distance from that to the middle finger, to the top of the middle finger. And generally speaking, like there's these kind of curved rhythms that go over the hand like this, and that even correlate down to the thumb, like so. Or more specifically, the thumb would be like, thumb joint would be about here, I think. Halfway, actually, yeah. That'd be up there. But yeah, so I got that kind of messed up there, but whatever. You got the metacarpals and stuff inside here that are like the finger bones that are inside your palm, basically. And if you understand that fact, then you understand now a little bit how like the palm trout works. So you got this kind of wedge shape that can bend and flex and flatten and stuff right here. Got a bit of a range to it and how it can like collapse in on itself or stretch out. And the reason for that is because there's these bones inside there. Those bones are moving around with that kind of fleshy mass in between them. It's bones with a fleshy mass around it, basically. And then in addition to that, another thing that kind of can help you sort of simplify things is you put this little triangle in the center of your palm, and that's just like a little shorthand for dividing up the sections of the palm. The thumb section of the palm, the outer section of the palm, and the top of the palm. Because you notice when you scrunch those inward, it creates kind of like a triangle-shaped divot in your palm there. Just about so. It can kind of help you wrap your head around like these bulges of the palm that are coming off the sides there and stuff. It's other stuff too, like the top of the palm versus the bottom of the palm. Bottom of the palm is a little bit more fleshy, squishy. Top of the palm is much more hard. So that's like a side view, profile view. Fingers going out over that way. Let's see here. So generally, like the knuckles here all follow the same rhythm, but except for the pinky. Pinky's kind of odd. comes on a little bit more shorty. But anyway, we'll get more into more specifics of the hand later this week. That's just a little quickie demo. So I needed to do a review of my hand anatomy too. So, but I know enough from muscle memory that I can play with constructing some hands for practice tonight. Yeah, Raboots, that's a bit better, but I want to see you be way more bold with those shapes. If you can draw bigger on your page somehow, I want you to do that.
Oh, I'm just zoomed in actually at like 350% just to kind of give myself some more working room.
Yeah, and remember, use your arm. And also, you don't have to be as tight with these as I am right now. When you're just starting them, you can be a little bit more sketchy with them when you're just starting to wrap your head around them. It's going to take some muscle memory to kind of get your head around these shapes, like how to play with these shapes and stuff.
How much smoothing or stabilization do you use?
Okay.
None.
Alright.
But that's just me. I don't like stabilization because it kind of lies to me a bit. Or actually, there might be some here. Now, apparently it's on 2. Try turning it off. Seems fine to me. So I'll put it back because I'm apparently used to whatever that was doing for me. But I don't really see how stabilization would make a huge difference for me on these, because this is like mostly like I can draw like this, like, or I can draw like this traditionally too. I've been pretty strongly at it for today, though, so I may pace myself and I may take more breaks from drawing during the session, but when I do them, I will be watching what other people are drawing, making observations about them. I will also be trying to feed people inspirational tips and other things. Keep drawing. Keep doing the drawing time sessions. I'm going to keep those running. But I'm in a fairly playful mood tonight. This drawing method, it feels like a slight personal breakthrough for me, because it's something that I'd done like back in 2017, but I didn't really develop further and stuff. But it was like it was something that kind of felt like it works for me very well. And it helps me kind of make sense of like all the noise in my head, of like all the anatomy knowledge I've studied, all the shape language stuff I've studied. I need like a universal method for drawing anything, basically. And this is like the start of, this is like a starting point for me of something like that. And I hope that it helps other people too. Because at the core, what we are practicing here with these oblong shapes right here, this is like, this is the same kind of stuff you'll get in like the Glenn Bilpu drawing manual. These kind of irregular shapes that you then think about three-dimensionally and like break down and add ellipses to, or to show direction and other things. So it's not coming out of nowhere, this method. But it is something that is working for me and it feels good. And so for some of you, this may not work as well as it does for me. Something else may work better for you, and I want you guys to figure out what that is if you can. But give this method a try, and maybe try playing with it. If you start finding that you really like building these shapes, just keep running with it, I would say. Shapes or shapes like these. But I want people to hopefully get to the point where they can start like basically treating the drawing page more like a sculptor's stand, basically. Like you're not necessarily even when you're doing gesture drawing and stuff, like the gesture drawing should have 3D presence stuff. That's something that I've tried to get people to wrap their heads around here. Like here's a very loose gesture drawing right here. But even this, like, there's foreshortening here on the legs right here that I've just sketched in, for example. And then and that's enough information from this really rough loose sketch here for me to kind of infer something like this. So I think that Invincible might be satisfyingly taking the place of WandaVision for our weekly watches. And well, I don't know what day of the week it comes out. Man, that torso looks really strange, but you know, you get the idea. Like, like even when you're drawing gesture drawing, you want to be thinking about how that gesture is moving in 3D space. This was a method that lends itself a lot more to 3D space. And if you've done gesture drawing where you are thinking about 3D space, you'll be on pretty good footing with doing these, because you're embedding gesture into these organic floppy forms. Zav says it's easier for them to draw outline of two crescents and connect them afterwards to make a shape. Yes. I'm doing, yeah, actually, Zav, that's actually not too far off from some of the stuff that I've been doing. There's a few other, like different variants of, like, those kind of connector sockets that I'm using. There's a couple of them in here. Like, some of them I'm not necessarily drawing like those end sockets on there, but it's sort of implied for some of these. But let me see if I can show off some good examples of that. Oops, second here. Yeah, let's see here. I'll just start with an irregular shape like this. That something. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes. So we got a regular shape like this. One thing that I like doing, like for example, let's say we're looking at an X-ray view of, like, this is an arm joint. This is like the upper arm connector joint right here. Here is the socket joint. Like this is almost like an action figure arm that we pulled off the figure. So now I make this concave shape in here, like so, which presumably would be fitting on top of a sphere form of some kind, or on the, like, the bulbous corner of a shoulder or something, like. Something like that. But then I've got, let's see here. So often like I'll just do this. I'll just do straight up this stuff for my limbs. But you could also do this. You could make like a cat point of some kind, like that, for connecting stuff up. Like so. Or you could create another ball, for example, for that joint. Create the limb that way. There's other forms you can use, like feel free to like play with different shapes and stuff. For example, here I'm throwing a... Actually, you know what? Because we are using those organic cylinder shapes, maybe I should use like an organic kind of cylinder here. That could be the base of a wrist. Right here. Potentially. And look, we don't know what direction that palm is until we put the triangle wedge in there. Now we know it's the palm is facing up. Throw the knuckles in there on the top. Stuff. At the same time, we have this kind of peg shape right here. Maybe I'll add one of these here for this elbow joint there. And then, because these are going to like a vanishing point kind of thing here, maybe there's something kind of implied here. The vanishing point that these are going towards. And now we have a better sense that we're looking at the top of this arm a bit, aren't we? You can maybe like even draw like a little kind of a center line here on the form itself to further solidify that. So what you're getting out of this, like you can just make really fun, pretty looking mannequin person drawings out of these that can be fun on their own. Or you can use these, this is your scaffold, for like, for coming back in and doing like your character design or whatever, and working out your anatomy, for example. Come back in with like some anatomy reference or something, and you go back over this. Everything's kind of in the right, like close to the right place here. Stuff. You can modify things so it's a little bit more, makes a little bit more anatomical sense. So on. You go back in and start working it out. And also, this is very much a training wheels method, because at some point, like at some point, like you're going to be able to do stuff like this, where like when you draw like this, it's all that stuff that we were doing scaffold stuff for, is embedded in this. But I'm not quite there yet. Okay, Google, stop. And there's always going to be times when you have tricky stuff where you're going to be needing to like more deliberately kind of work something out like that. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. Starting now.
So we're on another pose set right now. But yeah, you can use these to play, like, you can use these to play with exaggeration too. Like, as you start, I would like maybe like do a lot of these where you're trying to get some stuff that's a little bit more proportionate if you can. But you can also deviate and play with exaggeration and stuff. Like I sort of did that a little bit on this dude here. His forearm and stuff is really a lot larger because it's closer towards us, but it's also kind of exaggerated. But you can get really wild with these potentially. I mean, like, yeah, these look inherently very cartoony, don't they? So, I mean, it's not too much of a stretch to like get something that's a little bit more like a character design that you might see like in a Pixar movie or a Sony ImageWorks movie or something. So you are sculpting with these, so you don't necessarily have to commit totally to like your line every time. In fact, like sometimes committing a little bit too much can kind of hold you back a bit. Let's see here. But I just wanted to show how flexible like these shapes are, really. And I wanted to remind people that yeah, you're thinking about clay when you're drawing like this. Think about 3D shapes and stuff. Decided to do Grommet because he's on screen and some of the reference that's over here in the corner here. Like he's somewhere in this little stop motion character puppet reference thing. There he is. You have to imagine the shape on the paper before you draw it, or just have to feel it out. It's a little bit of both. Because it's an active thing that you're playing with here, so it isn't just. Well, you want to visualize it because you want to like have an idea in your head of what you're drawing, but sometimes it's okay to just play. Like you are eventually going to develop a muscle memory of being able to make shapes like these. That also holds true for constructing anatomical figures or any other thing that you learn how to draw. You're going to be developing a muscle memory shorthand for being able to make shapes like these. So then you don't have to think about these shapes. They just come out of you because it's like typing a word or something. Or these are your nouns and adverbs and your adjectives of your sentence structure, basically. Like this thing right here, I didn't really think about that. I started like thinking about it more when I started putting more line down of where's my hand going to go next and stuff. And before I do the next thing, I decide, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to do a ball here, ball socket here. I think I'm going to do a arm going up over that way, and I'm picturing that in my head. So that gives me like a direction to aim in. I'm sort of picturing in my head the next couple steps of what I'm gonna do stuff. And I'm giving myself enough space to be non-specific with it so I can play with it. So I can adjust as I see fit. Like, for example, in my original Mind's Eye, I was planning on doing something over there, but Gromit's kind of in the way of that, so I decided to tilt the wrist over that way. I'm gonna bother with the rest of the arm with the finger joints there. I'm just gonna go like that, just to make that point. So make sure you're drawing when you're doing these with your arm and your shoulder, not with your wrist. You want to minimize pressure on your wrist as much as possible. You are going to exercise your hand-eye dexterity while doing this, though. So look at that, like these thighs I made, you can immediately tell this one's too thin, that one's much thicker. Drawing in this really clean, plain fashion becomes a lot easier to compare shapes and compare proportions. Because things aren't as tangled. I'm going to invite people to practice this on their own, and especially practice playing with those oblong shapes. Filling up an entire page of these things, trying to interlock them together into random things to see what happens, or just try them a whole bunch. Try to get it to the point where it's satisfying to bang these out. Oops. Getting that weird bug again. There we go. Okay. Side of this figure is kind of floating. But the torso is a little short, so I'm gonna, whoops. Let's do that. Torso is a little short, and again, these are modular, so like if you make a mistake, you can either erase or redraw, or you can adjust it as if it's like a 3D Maya puppet. Like so. Also, you can combine this with like the Ethan Becker thing that he was showing off at the beginning. This is essentially like we're doing the Ethan Becker thing throughout the whole figure here. That one pose, one pose, one shape, a million poses thing. That's that applied to individual limbs as well. In fact, we could go back and maybe we might be able to strengthen our work again by reviewing the way he draws his shape, because having done my more organic-y shape, I feel I have a lot more control and observation skills now that I didn't when we last watched his video. So I might want to watch his video again. I'll probably get more out of it. In fact, if you guys are cool with it, I could put on the video right now, and we could just review. We could review that real quick. That might be a good idea. There we go. Let's pause the music. So this is going to be full screen temporarily. Well, let's see how would be the best way to do this. Let's shift the focus to. There we go. Now I'll play it.
By placing the head and the arm in different spots, with this one shape, you can have characters turning in space. I've split the spine, and now I've deceived your little baby infant brain into thinking that this person is turning in space. If you have trouble making dynamic poses, start with that, get learned, okay? Don't you ever draw with an arm or a leg. Ever. Why? Don't ever? You really? Wow. Okay. When I worked with the Avatar team, they taught me one simple shape to draw figures. Here's what we're gonna do. 3 steps. I'm gonna keep it slow so you can follow along. Step 1, pick your favorite artist to reference. Step 2, find the simple shape. Step 3, re-angle pro artist. It's very, very simple. I'm gonna walk you through it, all right? Again, this is one shape, any angle, none of these arms or legs. Arms or legs are just tubes. We're not gonna pay attention to those. We don't need those. If you wanna draw on this level, don't do this. Never do this. And by the way, I just quit my full-time animation job to work on YouTube for you, to make you happy. Are you happy now? Are you happy, June? All right, step 1, find your reference. This is too complicated right here. We're artists. We don't know how to read. Why do you think we're doing this in the first place? For me, I need to find somebody really, really clear on who to reference good structure. I'm referencing the guy that everybody is referencing in this field, Ryu. Ryu is OG, okay? Baseline, I'm gonna be teaching you no frills, none of this fancy stuff. I'm going to whip you like a child. I'm gonna whip you like I would whip me. Step 2, find the shape. And I know what you're thinking. This looks like a bean. There's a whole thing about artists drawing a bean shape for the body. This is not bean. Bean shape is ovals, and there's no decisiveness. It's like you can get lost in all these different curves and everything. This shape has a very specific turn, and we're gonna go through it in a minute. I'll explain. And this is all Ryu's work. All right, I'm gonna draw over these torsos here, and I want you to realize that all of these torsos are the exact same. I'm gonna prove it to you. We're not gonna be focused on arms, no legs, none of that. Focus on this. We're doing the shoulder and a hip and a pinch. We're always looking for this pinch. Where are these intersecting? Again, if you hear other animators or other people in the industry talking about a bean shape.
So that's going to be very important. Maybe we should include this pinch more. As you can see, I was thinking a little bit about that when I did this here, down in the corner here. But this shape, like this, right there. So maybe like looking for that, looking for the angle of the hips and stuff. That will
Where are these
help. Like we can still start with these irregular shapes, but if we are thinking of a torso, we maybe think about this pinch shape, or we add that pinch shape to the modified torso or something.
Intersecting. Again, if you hear other animators or other people in the industry talking about a bean shape. Okay, bean is like, no, don't. Okay, watch closely. Pinch, shoulder, hip. Here we go again. Pinch, shoulder, hip. Pinch, shoulder, hip. Pinch, shoulder, hip. Gonna make them dip. No muscle groups. So we're not doing color coordinates. We're not doing. Okay, we're not scientists. We're not rockets. You're making things too complicated in your infant little crayon brain. Step 3. I'm about to blow your mind. One shape, 50 poses. Right here, you're gonna see me grabbing these shapes, these bean shapes. Very simple step. I don't want you to have to think about where the torso is, where the hips are, where this and that is. If you just separate it by doing this, then it can be so much more clear for you. I'm gonna draw where the shoulder would come out, and I'm drawing which way the chest is going. And I know it looks like I'm just coming up with this stuff in my head, but I've studied Ryu and people like him so much that this comes naturally. And the more that you study these people, the more that you get into this professional mindset, the easier it's gonna come to you. And you're gonna see a shape. This is what's gonna happen. You're gonna see a shape and you're gonna be like, dude, I just connected this shape to all of these angles. Whenever I was working on Voltron, I would take their silhouettes, I would create new drawings based off of their silhouettes, just in different angles. It's literally like magic. I'm gonna show you in a second. Okay, and just by placing the head and the arm in different spots, I'm turning this character in 3D space. Now, again, this isn't perfect. This is a mask. This is a armature that you can build a good drawing off of. It has to start with this fundamental foundation. Okay, back of the head, the legs kind of raising up. An arm is coming up, arms going down. Whichever way I want to do, I can make a simple semi-dynamic pose just with this. Again, I can build off of this
He's essentially
later.
doing what we're doing, but just a
lot
lot
more.
more.
If you split the spine in a different
Lot
direction,
quicker.
then you can have these, with this one shape, you can have characters
It was a little
turning
more
in
shape
space.
variation
Let me
than
show
the
you. See, right here, I've
organic
split
log
the spine,
shapes
and now
that
I've
I'm using.
deceived your little baby infant brain into thinking that this person is turning in space. And boom, there you go. You got up shots, you got down shots, you got side shots, you got booty shots. If you have trouble making dynamic poses, start with that, get learned, okay? Step 4, most important step. I actually talk about this step in my class. The link is in below. I can't talk about it right here. Step 5. Step 5, re-angle professional work. If you want to get the most learnage out of this dinkle right here. This blew my little sock off the first time I did it when I was 4 years old. You got those little bumps on the abs and all of these different spots, and wow, look at all these angles and all these curves. And forget it. Forget about it. If you want to draw like little Timmy from high school, go ahead, draw your little abs, okay? But I'm gonna give you something that you can have foundation. You can build the abs off of it. Forget about these bumps. First thing you do is you white out the inside and get the silhouette of the professional drawing. You need to have this clear silhouette of a pro drawing. If you're already thinking like a pro, then you can already see how to re-angle this into so many multiple directions that you want. First step I like to do, find the shoulders, which direction the shoulders are going, and which directions the hips are going. Typically, these should be tapering. They should be converging at some point. Sometimes they're parallel. I wouldn't recommend it, okay? There should be a pinch somewhere that they converge. All right, look, I'm gonna do it again. Check this out. Boom, first thing, I'm gonna find the shoulders, slight taper with the hips, find that little booty, find the pinch right here. Boom, there you go. That's all you have to do. And if you want to make clothes on top of this character, you can. Just make sure that things follow these lines. Like the belt should be following that line roughly, you know, if they're wearing a belt or jeans or pants or whatever. Boom, you got a foundation. That's all you need. Step 6, I'm gonna give you a little bonus step here. Max learning, applied to figure drawing. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult for your little stupid eyes to see the direction of the body. But if you study good animation and you've got good brain, then you can see animation should make it clear. Now you apply it to real life where it's not as clear. I go in and I find where the converging point is at, the pinching point. That's what I'm looking for, the clarity. I'm gonna find the center line here. All right, this eye's got a little bump right here. Completely ignore it. Don't overcomplicate yourself, okay? Just do the tubes. And for the face, keep it simple. Just do a little oval with a little direction of where the bridge of the nose is. Shoulder pinch, hip, gonna make them dip. All right, and here, right here, you might say, well, Ethan, this isn't the secret shape that you were telling us to use. Well, it is. It's just that you're so stupid that you can't see it yet because you're thinking on like one dimension, okay? You take this sucker and you spread it and skew it and you start thinking, try to imagine if you were smart, and then that would be what you would be seeing. Watch this. Wow, pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. Wow. All right, skew your mind. All right, roughly the same shape, just put in a different dimension. You feel me? All right, with the trash bag person, you find the shoulders, the hips, pinching point, simple. Moving on. Try to do this for a bunch of figures and just get used to it, all right? Don't just stay on the same one and noodle it. Just move on. Here's the shape again, but I split it down the spine, Now it looks like he's turning in space, especially after you've had the noodle legs. Do not do this. Last but not least, try not to break down people with clothes on. It just gets too complicated. There's just like clothes everywhere and you just start, it's just bad. I see students doing all this time. All right, try to look at naked people. That was fun. I'm gonna be.
Okay, so anyway, Sketchy Face has some homework that they turned in for the 100 figures I assigned about like a week and a half ago, and they've okay Google, stop. Good timing. Okay Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes starting now.
So we're gonna be on a little 5-minute break. Feel free to submit more of your homework and I can take a peek at it. But Sketchy Face did a really good. Let me actually bring this up to class focus. There we go. So Sketchy Face's homework on the right here. I've been seeing them steadily improve. They're I don't know what they're doing. I think they're looking at. I don't know what they're doing outside of my class to improve, but I keep seeing them improving. I think they did the schoolism stuff outside of my class. But I'd love to find out from them what else they're doing, or what they're learning from on their own that's helping them. But yeah, these are really nice. Like the homework was like 100 figure poses and stuff. These torso studies right here also count for that too. And, I wanted a mix of draw over studies and other things. So these are looking really good. Some of these I kind of like. Some of these get a little awkward, I think. Like and like these ones right here are kind of weaker a bit. I think this is when you started messing with that method that I've been showing people here, and so it kind of took away from like your stuff is strongest when it's like the purely gesture stick figure things. You're very adept with this, so I would say that I think a good way to bridge the gap for the shape stuff for you would be to start with something strong like this, and then try to put those kind of shapes on it. Like this is your starting point, and then you can use this to like because you have things stretching and bending out and stuff and other things. You can use those those things in the gesture to modify how your figures stretch and bend and stuff. These are pretty good. I think you should get enrolled in a real figure drawing class with a real instructor instead of my amateur ass. Because you're gonna take off like a rocket if you get into class with the right instructor. Let's see here. Has anybody else submitted any homework? That's neat. Just that luck. Hey, he's looking a little flat. And looks like you're messing with smearing paint around and stuff. There is a little bit of a thrust to the gesture to it, but I think you're kind of messing with materials that are a little bit beyond you right now. And you should maybe pull it back to concentrating on shape design. Let's see here. Yeah. Arts and goodies. Trying out the stuff. I see like it's not really quite coming together for you just yet, but that will come with time. Like again, like you're gonna eventually to kind of develop a sense of like how these things are used in 3D space. But right now, I think you're kind of still kind of wrapping your head around making like these shapes that you're making have to feel like complete in 3D. Like right now, your aim is off basically. Like your aim with your drawing. These things like you can use them to practice your manual dexterity. If you can get these kind of feeling very solid before like using them to build these guys, you're good. Like let me bring this into my drawing app here real quick. Does anybody, and also if anyone else has any of the homework to submit, Sketchy Vase submitted it into the Drawing Corner chat in a PDF. Feel free to submit like that if you can. If you can't, maybe I'll take a peek at the homework section. Let's see here. I originally said that I was going to have people DM, but I think that Drawing Homework Shares might be the best place for it. Yeah, we'll take a look at some other people's homework. Preferably for people who are here. So call out if you're here and you want to get some homework feedback. But in any case, let's see.
I did the last time we talked, I did the thing where I
Okay,
tried to
Google,
do a couple-
stop. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry. I did the thing where you said to draw different poses of a character, but without giving any showing any of the key features of that character. I can pull that up if you'd like to see it.
Sure. Yeah. I guess post that one in Drawing Corner chat.
Alrighty.
Yeah, most people. There's quite a lot of good submissions and homework shares. But anyone, I'll give feedback to anyone who's present. I want to mainly give feedback to people who are here. So we'll hopefully we might be able to get just through some other. It's been kind of like slipshod how we've been handling the feedback on those. So I'll maybe like if some other people show up for feedback in the next week during the next week or so for those, I'll be happy to give feedback on them too. But anyway, so these guys right here, like I can see that you are at a stage where you're kind of fighting the materials. You're doing a lot of like kind of like these wispy and like disconnected lines that are kind of like not really coming together. Now you can use these things to practice control. Like that, see? See how smooth that was?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
This is homework.
What this?
I
What's that?
corner.
I think your audio is cutting off like crazy. Does anyone else hear that? The audio was like severely broken up for me.
Yeah, it wasn't like pinging in correctly. I think his bit rate's bad.
Yeah. Type out what you wanted to say into the Drawing Corner chat. Red tea. There we go. Yeah, I can give you some feedback on those. But here, let's take a look at this pose, for example. So the reason why you want to practice these is so you get line control and can be more decisive about your shape, your shape placement and your shape control. So if like for this guy, for example, let's see if we can construct something using much more concise shapes. So we want something like this that kind of has like a feel of like a curve to it. Torso twist kind of.
Or like your stream layout on Twitch is kind of messed up.
I think it's your end. I don't see any drop frames on my end, but when you were talking to me just now, your audio was cutting out.
I see like only Magma Studio panels on your Twitch.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Sorry, folks. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so these shapes right here that I just that I did draw overs that I was talking about. So these shapes right here, like you want to use these to practice your line control, like so. Be more decisive with them. And if you do like these really super sketchy figures, you can maybe go back over them again, try to get like more precise shapes into them. Also, you can make note of errors. Like, for example, the torso here seemed pretty long to me. So I'd probably do something like shorten the hips a bit. But it's like it's got like I've got a box full of like these little clay logs next to me, and I'm just like wadding them and adding them to the figure, like I'm reaching into an invisible box next to me to place these where I want them. See here, we got this torso twister here. Maybe we've got put a little pinch to the pelvis there a bit or something. Got this foreshortened arm here, hand there. Head that's like side plane here about. We got this foreshortened thigh here. Another foreshortened thigh there. Oop. It's just some examples. Like you want to start being decisive and you want to start embedding like the gesture and the feeling of the pose into these shapes. Oop.
Oh, could you post your red lines in the chat
Yeah, well.
once you're done?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, also, one of the, like, specifically for the legs, I tried to do a slightly different variation of that shape, where it, like, more so goes inward at the top. Like, I was trying to go for, yeah, like that shape that you just did on one of the figures I was seeing. But yeah, it was more
Like
a...
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
you can try those too. Like you can vary up the shape however you see fit. But the main thing is like I'm not seeing a lot of line confidence in these, but fortunately these shapes are tailor made to be able to practice line control and line confidence. Like you can fill up with. I would almost want you to like start like getting used to doing these a lot. But you are building them into 3D shape sculpts using these basically. And if it helps you to wrap your head around them, you can add like directional lines and center lines and other things, curved lines over the forms to kind of help you understand that.
Oh, you're on Twitch. Summoners.
Here, let's see. I'll take a quick screenshot of these demos here to post in chat.
Thanks again.
Mm-hmm. This is something that you should be able to like just when you can't think of anything else to draw, just like do a bunch of drills of something like this. These shapes, specifically these shapes. This can be for people that are suffering from poor line control. Just like filling up the page with a lot of these shapes. Will help you. You can go over the shape multiple times and stuff. You want to think about it as a sculpted form. It is not a flat 2D thing. it is a modular shape where you can you can decide what direction it's facing and stuff on the fly, but it is it should be thought of as a mass.
Interesting.
So let's see here. Who else was going to do demos of? Some cool stuff from Zov. Zov wants critique. I'll get to them. Let me see here. Maybe do a draw over of that hand that just that luck did. Just as a quick challenge for myself. Let's see here. So this is something that I told Red T to do when we were talking in chat. I wanted them to practice like some really simple figures where they take the detail off and they just concentrate on the acting. So I think you're off to a good start. I think that you can take these further too. Well, I mean, you can always take anything further, but I mean, like, for the most part, I can, with some exceptions, I can more or less at a glance tell what these figures are doing. But there's some of them where there's like principles of weight and things that can be pushed, and that's like a lot of that is going to come out of like drawing and observation and stuff. Like, I think these are an okay starting point, but I think you can do much more with them. Like, you can. I want you to do this. So you know about the Disney principle of plussing.
The Disney principle of what?
Plussing.
I don't believe I'm familiar with that.
Plussing. So it's a very kind of like 1950s oh, we're gonna head towards the push button age sort of oh, we're in the dun 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 dun, the powerhouse scene kind of terminology. But plussing is basically like taking something and bumping it up. And in terms of Disney stuff, that means like taking something and pushing it further, like pushing it further in quality and polishing it more. So we can take your idea that you did here with these are well, for Disney though, they would take stuff that was already polished, that was already very well polished to begin with, and when they would plus it, they would push it even further beyond, like polish it and push it beyond that even more. And that would like that led to them like making a lot of really great breakthroughs and stuff. In your case right here, you can also use plussing and stuff that's not quite hitting the mark just yet, but is close. And you can use plussing to either overshoot or like, or get closer on the mark. So so for these, the first thing that I would try to approach with these is to loosen them up a bit, and also to pay close attention to weight and balance, and also like think about the acting. Think about like what kind of things that would make the acting seem more natural, or add more appeal to the acting. Like for example, but that will be a process of playing with it. Like this is where stuff starts to get like into the kind of artsy fartsy territory of animators playing with stuff to add more attitude to things. And like for example, on this guy right here, I'm thinking like maybe I'll add more of a head tilt here, and I want to pay really close attention to his balance here. I want to make it really seem like he's like resting on that leg here. He's bouncing on that leg here. Well, this leg is like this other leg is a little bit more relaxed. Like, let's see, like I want to angle this leg here. So kind of, let me rethink this guy a little bit. I got some. When I'm looking at these, I'm picturing some stuff in my mind's eye about how I would plus these. Like, so this guy looks like he's kind of like going thumbs up, like something. I push the shoulders a bit, make the hips kind of like bald and rolled into themselves a bit, like shift the hips a little bit more. Perk up the hip on that end there. And then maybe like really spread that leg out here to give him more room when he's like that other leg is down. Like, and this is not even as loose as the one that I'm picturing in my mind's eye right here. Like I can kind of like see in my mind's eye like how a Disney animator might handle something like this. So I'm kind of shooting in the same area, but I'm not as great as like the Disney animators I've learned from, who actually taught me when I was in college. So I'm only getting like a close approximation of like, I'm kind of like doing a what would a Dave Brooksma do or something like that almost. But yeah, some of the things I'm seeing is like more of kind of like a casual thing, like hey, kind of cocked his head over there, the shoulders kind of resty a bit and stuff, with the arm coming up here. This arm's a little bit more slack and relaxed. That arm's a little bit more bunched up and pulled up and stuff. But his weight shift is over on that left hip. This leg is going to be more pushed out over that way and stuff. We might push this more by like his like pushing his facial expression a bit too. But like, for example, on this guy right here, we'll move on to this guy. So this guy is looking kind of really somber. So one of the things you can do with plussing is by taking an attitude in the acting and pushing it more. And the thing is, like, that's a little bit trickier to do if you're getting into subtler acting, but sometimes you want to push it further beyond, like much further beyond than what you think would be right. Because then you can always pull it back. Sometimes pushing it further is what you need to get closer to something that feels more natural or subtle. Like sometimes pushing it further gets you closer to the subtlety that you're trying to get. And that seems counterintuitive, but it sometimes happens that way. So I'm like kind of thinking like, oh, this guy, like if they're like really dejected stuff, I might even like kind of like push them even more, so they're like really dour stuff. I might push them down even more, but I just want to run through that real quickly. So this guy right here, this is kind of betraying a you need more figure drawing in order to understand weight sort of thing, but that's okay. But like my immediate reaction is that this guy needs to really feel like all the center of attention is on that bow and that weight and that body. It's like so much of this is going to be like, oof. So let's see here. Let's adjust this a bit more. So I got this shoulder that's down there. Maybe his hips are more out, kind of. Let's see here. Oops. It's kind of doing a step a little bit more towards camera a
Can you
bit.
make the forward stepping leg bend in a little bit under strain from the stack of books?
I'm kind of making like the whole line of action one big cartoon hyperextension a little bit.
Yes,
Right
and then
here.
as you attack them, you get them back.
But
He's kind of going for like he's trying to balance the books while trying to shift his weight to make the next step. Kind of idea. I don't know if it quite works.
yeah, it's not really that clear. Kind of, it's not really that clear, sadly. But okay, so I'm just playing with these to see what I can get out of them. Let's see here. Let's wrap that arm around there. Then we got this hand over here. And then, as with plussing with anything, sometimes you take the prop and you severely exaggerate the prop. So in this case, this guy's carrying a stack of something. Well, let's make him carrying a giant stack of something. And again, like if anytime you go beyond something, you can pull it back. You're exaggerating something. So now we got more of a feeling of like the arm kind of wrapping around base of that stack. Maybe like more of a bow here, where that stack is like pressing down. Papers everywhere and stuff. I'm gonna cut off the top stack of this so we have more room to draw up top, but I just wanted to show that as like something you can explore when doing those. So you're trying to do another weight thing here. It looks like this guy's trying to lift something, but I'm not really getting that here. In order to successfully pull off a weightlifting thing, you have to know where the center of gravity is and the center of mass is. And when a character is lifting something, they're usually lifting it from the legs and exerting up through the body here, like for example. So it's carrying like really heavy something here. Something really heavy. Small object, but it's heavy in this case. So this guy right here, this guy's looking like he's skeptically reading the paper. So we want to maybe play this arm a little bit more slack here. Lean the body in a little bit more. So this arm's down a little bit more slack. Turning off your layer, now I have something that's a little bit more lively to work with. I can push them on their own terms now that I've kind of got something that I've riffed off of to start with. Maybe even want to push this guy's leg out even further. Like, the reason why I'm doing this is that I'm not tied down by the initial sketch I did. Or the initial draw over it, the initial sketch I was doing a draw over of. I can start working out this on its own, working out these poses a little bit more on their own terms. Yeah, if you can't get a hold of the copy of the book Illusion of Life, there's a lot of this stuff that gets discussed in it that I'm showing off here. So I would strongly recommend getting a copy of Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston's Illusion of Life.
Yeah, I've been trying. I went to Barnes and Nobles and was like, "Hey, can I try it out?" They didn't have it on hand, but I'm gonna try to get my hands on it.
So this guy's a little tricky because he's got hands in front of his body. So it's supposed to look apprehensive and stuff, but it's not really doing it for me. And also the silhouette's kind of ambiguous. So I decided to change the hand placement here. Like, let's see, where would I put this? Maybe like, oh, I don't think it's pushed enough though.
I was trying to capture the fact that he's a little effeminate, like kind of a lanky, you know, not necessarily like a very strong kind of guy. So I think that's why I was trying to put his hands together because it's like him being like, "Oh dear, oh like oh no." I wasn't sure what to quite do with
Yeah,
that.
I mean it's a process of playing with it. You want to aim for a strong silhouette with these, of course. Like, maybe like his hand should be over here. Yeah, that works better for me. Do that. That definitely works way better for me. See, now we have a stronger silhouette.
They came back in the yeah, I don't know. By all means, they should be here.
There's also this kind of like, I'm always looking for like the overall kind of thrust of the pose and stuff like that, for example. On here, it's this. On here, it's kind of like this, or like this, more like. And this, it's like that, exerting the force and the thing. It's like that.
They were too late. Okay.
Like that one's more of him like reacting to.
And I have 15 Goku.
Got someone talking in the background there.
Yeah. That's like him reacting to like a noise or something. Like something dropped. Or in him being startled. Oh, that does look a lot.
So this body feels very stock. That's the thing. Like you want to. So keep in mind a thrust to the body, and there has to be an overall thrust. Look for areas where in the body that are going to be more relaxed. Like for example, this arm right here is kind of relaxed stuff, but this arm is more tense. Right here. Look for areas of tension and relaxation in the body. Like sometimes one part of the body will be more tense than another relaxed part. Look for where the weight is, and also think of the acting and how you're going to sell the acting of the action. How you can push the acting to be a stronger, clearer statement. And don't be afraid to get messy when you're doing these, by the way. Like, I told you to be clean, then that's fine and stuff. And keep it simple. But when you're trying to explore your acting and stuff, you can feel free to get messy like this, and then you just do like a cleaner version of it. Over the top, like the black line that I did on top of that. Once you kind of have something that's starting to feel gesturally pushed in the right direction, you're going to be putting emotion into your pencil as you're doing these. So I decided like this arm is a little bit slack right here because it's kind of hanging his arm off his lip, but his chin. I think I got a little bit ambiguous with this one. So let's maybe like try this, maybe something like this. He's looking at something, so maybe his body has to be leaning that way. I don't think this one was as successful, but it's a definitely it's an improvement, but this one's not quite there yet for me. So like this. Placement of the legs.
It's a little like contemplative, more so than just
If you
looking
want
at
to,
something
there
particularly.
are trade out points over here.
Well, contemplative would be more reserved, I think, than this. This is just kind of... Yeah, I did kind of push him forward a bit, but let's try contemplative then. So contemplative to me would maybe be something more like more reserved. He'd be more laid back. Contemplative or perplexed?
Probably perplexed.
Yeah.
Somewhere between that. Just like he's thinking about something and he's just kind of like, okay, what exactly are we looking at here?
So he's supporting the other arm with this arm. He's got his arm up like that. Yeah, this is more perplexed to me.
Yeah, that one charges faster.
So this one right here, this too ambiguous. I get the attitude from the face there, but I think you need more of a proud thrust to the body. Maybe like put him up on his tiptoes just a little bit, like hee. It's a little bit boastful. Like, let's see. He's got his hands doing the same thing on either side, but I mean that they can work a bit. Let's try something like this. Think a little bit more about what to do with those arms. They have to follow. I feel like they have to follow a line of action that works for me. It's not really quite working for me yet, though. Let's maybe turn this off.
Is it a matter of like forcing more asymmetry in the? Is it a matter of forcing more asymmetry in the poses?
A little bit. Symmetry can make stuff look really flat. But it isn't just that. It's also about like trying to find ways to bring the pose to life. Like it's like if things are kind of like countering themselves, and if the idea is ambiguous, like if the idea is unambiguous, the emotion is unambiguous, the emotion is clear, then everything in the pose should be directing us to the emotion and be pushed in the direction of that motion, that emotion, or whatever in the acting.
Does it look conceivably like the same character, or?
Well, that's for you to play with. But I think at your stage right now, you're having trouble kind of like finding the range of how to push poses. That's I think like as with everything, like as you start to digest your range with what you can actually do with the mechanics of this stuff, you'll eventually kind of figure out the acting specifics of a specific character. But I want you to play with seeing how much you can push and try different poses. Some of them may not even be poses that you wouldn't think of for this character, but I want you to try them anyway. Like because sometimes you may stop. Well, first off, you don't want to limit your range, and when you're trying to get your drawing acting chops up. But the other is sometimes you'll discover stuff or discover aspects of the character that you wouldn't have that you would have avoided otherwise. Not too happy with these. Maybe like, oh, I think that this might work actually. This. So that arm goes down a bit more, maybe. That arm is up. I don't know. Really need to pose this one out, but I kind of want more like an up thrust of the, maybe really thrust the chest out. That's working a little bit better for me. There we go. The arms, I'm still having trouble with like what I'm going to have them do, but at least like the overall kind of feeling of the pose is starting to read closer to what I would want to get out of it. So I'm not sure what's happening here. He's like scrunching down and reacting to something.
It's like he's trying to like protect his face or head because he's like scared of
Protect
something.
the face because you're scared. To me, that would be like something more like kind of like, oh, hands in front of the face. Face turned away. Back up like this. Like that. And trying to back away a little bit. Exiting stage left. Or screen left. One more here. This one, I guess is he reading something and kind of reacting to it, or he's supposed to be?
He's not reading. It's more of like he's been like something is coming at him and he's afraid it's gonna like hit him in the head. Oh, that one? Oh, sorry.
This one.
Yeah, that's him being like concerned with what he's reading, or is like he's a little.
It's a little bit too ambiguous right now in his posing. Also looks like he's about to fall over. Looks like he's about to fall over backwards. He's kind of floating on his balance.
I think your feelings are gonna be miles ahead.
Yeah, I'd probably bring that his right leg, probably bend it in a little more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Let's see if we can maybe rethink this pose, actually. Like, with the idea of this pose. Concerned with something that he's reading. So how would you act this pose out? Like, if you got a book, how would you stand? How would you act that? That's what I want to ask you.
Like shoulders, like shoulders scrunched, somewhat shocked, but also. I'm sorry.
Here, I think I got something. I'm actually acting out the pose here myself. You can't see me, but I am.
Like shoulders scrunched, just like disbelief at what's being read, but also like extreme concern, probably hunched over. Like really up close to the book of just like, am I actually reading what I'm reading? So he's just like everything is like really tense is what I have in mind of just like, oh god, I can't believe that's like that could be true in a way. I like the full mouth or full hand covering up the mouth. Oh, you're even doing like the perspective a little bit, trying to bring the book more to the forefront. Sorry, there's so much background noise. My boyfriend's playing some game with his friend.
Apparently controlling different versions of this.
It's definitely an interesting one, huh? I think I really like that one, like the second to last one you drew, where he's leaned a little bit back. Though I kind of imagine it to be kind of that same expression with like the hand over his mouth, but like lean forward in towards the book. Or like the upper second to left corner. I don't know.
Playing with a bunch of different versions of like reading a book and being like really kind of something about it. Time is it is 8. It's got about 25 minutes left in the class, I would say.
Yeah. Or I don't know, how long do these usually run? It's 9 o'clock
to
for me.
8:30.
Okay.
So tomorrow, will we take a look at the animated turnarounds?
Yes.
Nice. I've been waiting for some feedback. I've had quite a lot of issue with mine.
And some of what we did today will be leading into what we're doing tomorrow too. When people revise their turnarounds, they can use some of what we did today to help them with it. And also like
Because I just arrived and
yeah.
I don't know what was.
Anyway, like when you're thinking out your thumbnails and stuff, I want you to be like filling up a page with like thoughts and stuff like this. Like, don't limit yourself. Like try like all kinds of weird different ways you can play with the pose, like different versions of the same of a similar idea, or don't limit yourself, don't restrict yourself and stuff. Like you can try playing with it in weird ways, and you can, if you find something you like, you can develop it more in that direction or go off on a different tangent and stuff.
Was thumbnailing the subject of today's class?
What's that?
I missed today's class, so I was just asking what was the focus.
Well, we've gone on a detour right now into like some animation acting demo stuff, but this is mainly what we've been doing today. These kind of oblong shapes that we're using to construct figures and limbs and stuff, and use as a starting point of simple shapes to construct figures in 3D space, basically, that have a gesture embedded into them.
I see. So it was a continuation.
Yeah, continuation of Wednesday.
Okay, understood.
So yeah, tomorrow, folks, at 2:30, we will be tomorrow, folks, at 2:30, we will be doing our Animation Saturday class, where we'll be taking a look at some figure turnarounds. Just want to remind people what I did as my example. Let's see here. I've showed these several times, but I haven't really done too much this kind of stuff recently. I want to maybe see if I can do a little something playing with this sort of thing tomorrow, but I don't know if I'll be doing a live animation demo, but I'll be doing critique over people's work. And we could be looking at some other things that would be helpful for us. So let's see here. So what I wanted people to turn in for this week would be something along these lines right here. Like a simple figure. It's like a turnaround like that. Can be rough, can be more worked out, just as long as it's pretty like smooth and clear. And these are some other examples of turnaround animations that I've done myself. Yeah, rough turnaround. So what time is it? I'll give people another 20-minute session of continuing to draw the time poses. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, and we're starting now.
I'm gonna chillax a bit because I have been drawing crazy amounts today. I've been really trying to get as much mileage as I can in this method because I want to use this method to build neat stuff with. Hopefully we get into a little bit of that tomorrow too. Oh, also for anyone who's interested after class, I'm gonna be maybe I'll play Invincible again, except I don't know if I'll do a watch party. I might do it in the Discord or something, but we can watch Invincible together, which is the new Amazon series based on the comic. Comic's very fantastic, and the comic has a lot of excellent figure drawing in it, by the way. See if I can find some pages. Maybe like the covers kind of show off just how well drawn the comic is. The cover is about as well drawn as the interiors are. Yeah, here's one of the interiors. And the animated adaptation actually does a good job of showing off the character designs very well. I think the comic the comic has some dynamics to it that the series doesn't have. But the series is pretty marvelously well executed overall, I would say. I would recommend reading the comic whenever you, if you ever get the chance, because there's a lot of amazing art in it. Oh, here's a character lineup of the character designs for the animated series. Cool. These kind of make me want to do a character turnaround rough test using one of these guys. Maybe I can do a demo of that tomorrow. That might be really fun to do on stream. I just use
That would be fun.
Yeah, I would just use like the basic shapes that that we've been playing with for a lot of these. Just like grab one of the characters here to do like a turnaround of or something. Be a rough turnaround, of course.
So I was interested in seeing how people execute turnarounds of characters who are in asymmetric poses.
Mm-hmm.
When you can't simply just flip the 3/4 drawing and get like an extra pose, you have to draw the thing again because it's not symmetric. Because I was struggling with doing mine because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, symmetry can actually make things really stiff. There's sometimes when symmetry is good, especially for turnarounds, for example. And also like symmetry is also really tough, especially when you're drawing like a straight-on face. But generally speaking, things are generally asymmetrical, and asymmetry with balance to it creates dynamics. There has to be some kind of balance where there's like a strong and weak side. Something's favored here, so something else is favored over there. Just going through and admiring the comic art from Invincible. That's what the hell. What is this? Well, they did a free comic book day recently, apparently. With a bunch of alternate covers, apparently. Hey. Today's been a fruitful session, I would say. So, before we go for this evening, I want to know if anyone has any questions. Let me take a look at people's submissions real quick. Don't know if I'll. Oh yeah, Zov wanted some stuff. Let me bring them in here real quick. Yeah. So Zav, I'm a little out of it right now, but I would say that like I would want, like I like what you're doing. I see what you're doing. Like, for example, like there is a sense of like shape and shape and construction to these, and so on. I think that trying to make those more confident shapes, kind of like what we were doing today, might benefit you too, where you kind of get rid of like some of the anatomical over information, but you leave enough space for yourself. Like I could almost see like using those using shapes kind of like that to like as your starting point for these, but you use them as a more confident starting point. So it's like more kind of masked out. Let me see if I can show something that might hint at bridging the gap of what I'm talking about. Like oh, I know, like this. Check out this arm right here. This is from anatomical reference right there, and I made it out of like basically the kind of same kind of shapes that I would make for like stuff like these and so on. I want you to be more decisive with your shapes, basically, and have the ability to like peel back to simple confident shapes. So your construction gets way more deliberate. What you should be definitely looking at for sure is, let's see here, Kihun Ryu. See if we can find some examples of his sketch work somewhere in here. Yeah, any of his sketch work where you can kind of see the underlying way that he's drawing, I think would be would help you out. Like this right here from that animatic that we looked at, this silly thing. But you can see like in those limbs and everything else that he's drawing here, like there's aspects of those confident shapes kind of being sculpted in stuff. He did these really quickly, but like let me see like this right here. You can kind of feel a sense of like he constructed a confident shape underlying this kind of, where he has a sense of a confident shape that he sculpted into that with. That's also what I'm kind of trying to aim for with these. These are like, this is like really, really simple what I'm doing right now, but I'm trying to like key at my visual memory so I can eventually move into doing stuff more like this. It makes sense. Shazam is, whoa, sorry. I think this is, yeah, this is Kihun Ryu's storyboards. Yeah, look at Kihun Ryu's storyboards. He's got a YouTube page. That's some good shit. Wow. I recognize some of the poses. Some of the poses here Ethan was using in his video. Yeah, look for more confident shapes, but look at artists like this for how you want to push those confident shapes, basically. And Ethan Becker's video already lays out how to think in those terms. Look at that thigh right there. This leg right here, this is essentially like the same kind of thinking that I'm putting into making those really simple shapes for like limbs and stuff. But this is just like more, this is more like somebody that has more muscle memory for how a leg works than me. It's really cool. I'm gonna save that for later. See if he's got anything. His most recent stuff was like 4 years ago. Wonderful 2D animation. Wonderful Days 2D animation game. Apparently, I think this is like some home video stuff he took or something, or I have no idea what this is. Is this a documentary? Like it's like a South Korean documentary on. It's a South Korean documentary on making Wonderful Days that he worked on as an animator, I believe. And they show off some of the reference footage that they made for it. Yeah, Wonderful Days was a really super ambitious South Korean anime film from a long while back. There's a lot of amazing animation in it too. Yeah, you can see, like, look at the sketch that he's done right here. Like, when I build up more dexterity with what I'm doing and more confidence in, like, my shape variation, like, I want my stuff to look more kind of like this. Like, you can see, like, he's got a similar sort of thinking in mind when he sketches out and constructs that hand stuff to kind of what I'm trying to get with my training wheels version of thinking about 3D shapes and stuff. Yeah, taking another look at Ki-hoon Ryu might be pretty helpful tomorrow too. Hello. You're very quiet. Who's talking? Hello?
Hello?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah, Zav.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
As a closing thing, I'll do this, but did you have something you wanted to ask?
I don't really understand what I'm doing incorrectly exactly.
I'm not saying you're doing anything incorrectly. I'm just saying, like you need critique from someone higher level than me. But one thing I do want to see you push is I want to see you push more shape confidence in the stuff that you're doing. The more like more kind of a sense of like the decisiveness to the shapes and stuff, or like try to compare yourself to someone like Ki-hoon Ryu, like how he uses his shapes and how he uses his poses and stuff, and see if you can like combine by observation some of what someone like him he's doing. He's who I'm trying. People like him are who I'm trying to shoot for myself.
It's just because I think I've gotten to like a stage where it doesn't really, like, some of the exercises don't feel like they're helping exactly. I'm just doing the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of that is going to be just like, it's just the normal part of the learning process. Like, you need time to like, you need time for like this stuff to kind of sink in over time. Like, you may not realize it, but you are advancing. It's just happening at a lot slower rate than it's really immediately detectable. The other is there might be some kind of a shift in the way that you need to think about how you're doing things currently that might get you to another level that you're plateauing right now at.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to ask if you are using the techniques you are studying for your own personal work.
Yes.
Because sometimes, I mean, that happens.
Literally everything here that we're doing. Are you asking me that? Or
No. I was asking the person who was asking you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we don't really notice an improvement with the techniques that we are studying until we use it to problem solve in our own work. Because that's when things really click, because we are using it not just in a study setting, but actually to get something done, and we get a new understanding of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was asking if the person who asked was using
Yeah.
the techniques.
In my point of view, Zav is like really far along. They're farther along in some aspects like than I am, especially in their understanding of anatomy and stuff. Like I think a lot of I think Zav you definitely need you should have a lot more confidence in the path that you're currently walking right now, and that in my opinion, but I think the next stage for you is going to come out of if you enroll in like a really good class with a really good instructor. It's like I'm gonna try to like see if I can prod you into directions that might help you get over your current plateau. But
Okay.
But I think that you're on a good path, and you should keep at it. And you just try like if you feel like you're getting diminishing returns on what you're doing right now, try to maybe see if there's something you can try differently that might that could complement what you're currently doing, so you won't kill the momentum with what we're doing now, but something that might add some kind of additional spice to what you're doing or something, if that makes any sense. Like
I am planning on joining a class.
Yeah.
It hasn't started yet, but
Oh, goody. What class are you rolling in?
I'll need to find who it's like from, but they seem good, I guess.
What's the class subject, and what school is it at?
1 second, let me find it.
So this isn't my best hand drawing or my best forearm drawing, but I'm doing this little draw over demo here to kind of show how to maybe start thinking about breaking up 3D shapes and stuff. There's some issues with that side plane of that hand there. The person here.
It's by someone called Aruseli, I think.
Who's it called? Do you have a link to it in the chat?
Put it in now.
Yeah. Honestly, Zav, you've got a lot of talent, so you should not be timid about what you're doing at all. I think you've got a lot of ability to begin with. It's hard for me at my level to give you feedback. I'll try the best I can, but honestly, like, I think that this class that I'm looking at right here that you're enrolling in, or no, this is a recorded thing. Feedback. Wait, they actually giving feedback?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's only $185. It's pretty nice. Alexa, stop. Put your own pace. Exchanging feedback for your community. Artistic guidance and pointers by the instructor.
Answered that other person before.
Huh. This is pretty nice, actually.
Yeah?
Oh, I wanted to say, like, yeah, I don't usually apply, like, when I'm studying versus when I'm making personal work. It's hard for me to apply that stuff, and that's because, I don't know, I don't have that much motivation to do my personal work, so, yeah.
Well, that's what classes are for. classes you can also use to develop personal work. Like if you're enrolled in like a character design class or something like that. If you have a personal project that you have an idea for that you don't really have the best motivation for, you can use that as study fodder for a project, and then you have motivation to do it because you're trying to do it within the context of a class. It's a goal or something. Like you're trying to develop a thing that's going to be a portfolio piece, and you need the instructor's help, and you got to put in the effort for each week to submit to the instructor and stuff. And the structure of the structured environment of a class like that can be really helpful for people that are struggling with motivation on their personal work.
True, and also I would add to that having a project in mind when you are studying can help so you can know if you are going in the right direction or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you can self-critique with something objective. Like, I'm trying to do this. Am I getting closer to it or am I not? How do I fix it? Because sometimes when we are studying with no direction, it's hard to tell. Maybe we are getting something right, maybe not, but who can tell?
I have a project that I want to work on. It's just, I don't know. I have like a disconnect between what I do in practice versus what I do in like my actual project, like applying that into.
How so? Like, can you describe what you're wrestling with? Like, is it? Well, let me just take a stab in the dark here. Is it like when you sit down to actually do the thing, you can't pull together like the same kind of structured approach to your drawing as you would in a figure drawing class session or a practice session or something.
In a way, yeah, because I have a comic that I want to make, so it's all about like making concepts for that comic. So like when I need to apply that stuff properly, I'm not in the right mind state to sort of apply those skills into a practical setting.
Yeah.
That's not just in like, this is just practice, then it's easy. But if it's like, oh well, I'm doing the real thing, then it's
so hard. I can tell you how to get over that hump. So I've been struggling with myself, and I kind of have. Well, first off, I'm literally someone who's taking a class to get over my artist block. But I have been continually working on like development for the projects I want to do. So I have my projects ready to go for when we do that. For when I get into that. And also, like, what I'm doing here, I'm trying to do this with project stuff in mind as well. Like, I literally developed this method of drawing because this is what I want to use with my projects when I'm going into the class stuff next month. But anyway, what I'll say is about getting started on your projects is you need to give yourself permission to make shitty drawings. Lots and lots of shitty drawings. You also need to gather lots of inspiration and reference. Just start digging through it and stuff. Like mining it for like lining up the stuff that you're gonna play off of to create your character designs or your worlds and stuff. And you just start sketching like crazy. Like and give yourself permission to make shitty drawings. Because you want to get something down on the paper to play with. Push and pull around like taffy, almost. Creative taffy.
Yeah. Because I collect like lots and lots of reference. I think I have like several folders which are just like 1,000, 2,000 photos and stuff. Just dedicated to all sorts of reference. But yeah, I kind of forget to use them.
Yeah, that's the other thing that a lot of people struggle with. Like they aren't very disciplined at actually using the reference that they gather, or they aren't structured about using reference. It's very hard to sit down to a blank page, but if you have like lots of inspirational images to play off of and mess with, while you're working on something that actually takes out a lot of the guesswork for you in some cases. In concept art, and then also in comics for that matter, they actually use kit bashing an awful lot. If you've ever seen kit bashed comics before, that's similar to concept art kit bashing, where they will take like photos and stuff or like other things, and they'll stitch it together like a big, like a comic manuscript that's been kit bashed can often look like a Frankenstein collage of cutouts and like of buildings and all kinds of things. And then like the artist just goes back through and like creates their scenes using basically this mashed together reference that they created for themselves.
I haven't like seen that specifically, but yeah, I just have to keep pushing out stuff.
Yeah, I think you're very shy, and I think you have a tendency to be very shy, and it comes through, and it comes across in how you draw, and I think you drastically underestimate just how much talent you actually have, and I'd love to see you build more confidence and faith in yourself, because you've got a tremendous amount of potential from everything I've seen from you, and I think that you got to figure out what's going to give you the confidence lift, and also what's going to eventually like get you the rhythm you need to develop those personal work stuff. But you should also not really beat yourself up, because personal projects can be pretty daunting, especially if they're very ambitious. Maybe you need to scale down the scope of what your personal projects are. And like find some really super small personal project thing to do, or maybe you can do like development for just one small aspect of your personal project. Like, okay, today I'm just going to draw like nothing but character heads of this particular character that I'm trying to explore the personality and face of for my thing or something.
How do you go about creating a personal project? Because every time I sit down, like
I have to have an idea. What's the idea? The idea can be something like can be anything from like a story idea that you have, or like a concept for like a vehicle or something, or it can be like a illustration you have in mind, or it could be like you're gonna do, or I'm gonna do some animation to a piece of audio from a YouTuber that I like, or Let's Player that I like, or I'm gonna give myself I have to complete a film in 24 hours, or well, I would do that. That's kind of brutal, but I have to complete an animated short in a certain amount of time with a certain amount of parameters, or something, or I want to develop a comic story, or something. They can be big or small, and I would recommend that anyone who is having artist block on personal projects, try to start with personal projects you can do in a day. For those,
thought of it like that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to be doing myself. Right now. I'm just my personal projects. You're looking at my personal projects right now. My personal project is to develop this drawing approach more. That is a personal project for me. What I'm going to do with this, as I develop this method more, is I'm going to create characters animations using this. But right now, this is my personal project right here, essentially. So I'm not beating myself up that I'm taking away from my personal projects. This approach to drawing that I'm trying to develop for myself right now is a personal project, and eventually I'm going to use it to create characters and stories and stuff with, and those are going to be other personal projects. Anyway, go ahead, sorry.
How do I slow down when I draw? Like I find it like my brain shuts off, and I just go on autopilot, and like all of the things I study just fly out the window.
Yep, that's a common problem.
I have that.
The way you deal with that is, well, first off, you have to draw regularly, because anytime you stop and start your momentum because art is a fine motor skill, and fine motor skill needs to be maintained, and that means you need to be practicing every day in order to maintain it. And obviously, don't burn yourself out or give yourself carpal tunnel or something. But if fine motor skill like this, you need to be practicing every day, and it kind of takes a lot of practicing that fine motor skill to like clear out the noise and to calm yourself down. And practicing control exercises that can help give you that control. That's also why I'm a fan of this approach to drawing that I'm using right now, because this forces me to slow down and give myself more control. And making these kind of blobby shapes and stuff where I clear the noise out of my head and it becomes kind of a relaxing sort of zen.
Is it like I study it until it becomes second nature instead of like...
It is. It's also a matter of giving yourself time to really digest it and really kind of like give it time to breathe. Like you're going to be inherently trying to rush when you do drawings and stuff early on when you're learning. You have all this nervous energy and stuff, and it's easy, like people fall into the trap of thinking if I draw faster then that's going to translate to faster drawing. In reality, faster drawing means you just make more mistakes you make way more mistakes at faster speed, but not in a way that's productive. Like you're drawing into a tangled, inefficient mess if you draw quickly. But if you are able to force yourself to slow down, or if you're able to get yourself to vibe with a method like what I'm doing right now, where you really where it feels really good to slow down, like what I'm doing, then really you wind up getting way more detail down on the page than you did when you sped up, because you're making smarter decisions. So with a single line, you describe way more in one go than you would with about like a 50 scribbly, cross-hatchy, nervousy lines or whatever.
So like spend more time thinking of what you're gonna do instead of just doing it like on impulse.
Yeah.
Sort of.
And it's also worth. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's also worth it to, like, before you actually put your pencil down to draw, take a moment to think about what you're going to do, and pay attention to the art. Don't just put the pencil down without a plan.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's times when you can just play freely. Like you see what I'm doing right now with these things right here. I've drawn them so many times that they're kind of second nature. So I kind of am able to play with them pretty freely.
That was what I was going to mention. I think there's a value in both.
Yeah.
Drawing consciously and giving everything a thought before
Yeah.
you draw it, and there is a value in drawing with your intuition. So like even drawing in autopilot has its merit.
So this is all. When you're how like when you're first learning how to drive a car, you're very, very conscious of every action you take.
Yeah.
But if you drive a car long enough, eventually you're not even really thinking about what part of your body you're moving to do what and stuff. Like it's just I'm gonna accelerate. Oh, I just accelerate. Oh, I'm gonna brake. I'm gonna brake. I'm gonna slightly adjust my steering and stuff without being conscious of the steering and stuff. It's kind of like that with art too. It's actually like that with any kind of learned task, honestly. Like over time, like the mental circuitry in your head and in your nervous system to be able to pull off the actions you need to pull off start to rewire themselves to be more efficient, so that thought and action become one and the same. And you need to that's why you need to practice this stuff a lot, because like a lot of the stuff needs time to click and to become that way. So like there's going to be a lot of time that you're going to need to like think about what you're doing, like very carefully observe things and like rethink things and check. It's the same way as if you're learning how to drive or something. You need to do that because otherwise you can crash. But as you get more as you develop like more mental and physical dexterity with it, and the like muscle memory of doing the thing that you're trying to learn starts to encode itself in you, then thought and action starts to become one and the same. And that's like the magic of human psychology and human physiology. Like our neuroplastic brains and nervous systems and stuff eventually rewire themselves so that the things that we had to think about a lot that are very complex actions get like these little mechanisms in our heads, get wired up with these little mechanisms in our heads to help us like perform these really complex tasks with very little mental effort compared to where we started. And that's what you get out of practicing this stuff like crazy over time. High-level animators are like that too. Like what I was talking about there the other day. Like high-level animators like Glenn Keane and stuff. They think less about the act of drawing and they think more about like the choices of acting, and the action and stuff. They think less about the actual act of drawing because it's just so intuitive for them. They've done it for so long.
Is it worth like thumbnailing and stuff first?
Yes, definitely. It's always worth it to thumbnail. It's always worth it to, and even if you don't thumbnail, treat your initial drawings as if they were thumbnails and maybe try to revise them or something, or push them.
Thanks for the advice.
Yes.
I'm gonna go to bed now.
Yeah.
11:40.
You get plenty of sleep.
Thanks for the class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went a little bit over, didn't we? I'm going to shut the stream very shortly, but any of you guys who want to hang out in my Discord, I'll be putting on Invincible. I may start with episode 3 because I just watched 1 and 2. So if you're fine with that, then we'll do that.
I guess that's okay. I'll probably just hang out a bit while I try to work on my turnaround more, since it's not done yet.
Anyway, I'll shut down the screen now. But we'll be over in the Discord. So exclamation mark. Discord. There we go.
I don't know if my mic is working or not, actually.
I can hear you, but you are very quiet.
Oh, shoot.
K-Bean?
Is that better?
K-Bean? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll
Hello, I know this is like the very end of the stream, but I made it. I like just joined this class, and that was after you had assigned that homework assignment about like, I think it was 100 gestures.
Yeah, 100 figures.
And yeah, I was wondering if you would ever be assigning a project similar to that again. 'Cause I was like,
Yes.
man, that would be really great.
We're kind of off our rhythm right now because I had like a couple rest days from a COVID vaccine, and there's a couple other weird things that happened. But yeah, I'll definitely be doing that. And also, like, you're welcome to just do that on your own continually. I would hope people would continually do that.
Yes, I definitely will.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And also, I strongly recommend having something like, well, guys, if you can't find any reference for anything, it's this giant library of stuff on this this account here, right here, on Pinterest. Tons and tons of stuff, tons and tons of folders with tons of pins of, just like you can put up random stuff or stuff that might be specific to a thing you're trying to do, to just have up there to practice. Like you can use this, by the way, for example, let's say you're trying to do an illustration. There's a motorcycle in this illustration. Well, there's motorcycles and vehicles in this thing right here that you can use for your reference. And it's drawn examples of reference that you probably want to get photo reference too, but you can see some drawn examples to show how like other artists have solved the problems with drawing a motorcycle, for example. There's drawn examples of hands, of different character designs. There's even some 3D reference things here and there. I think there's also some photo reference stuff in there too. Yeah, there is. There's a bunch of video tutorials at the bottom as well.
This is enormous.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's tons of stuff to dig through on here.
This is a great resource.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everyone who's here should be like using what's in there extensively. Just like that's my homework for you guys. From now on, anytime you're drawing, almost always try to have this folder or an equivalent of it that you've made yourself open near you with like stuff on screen for you to see somewhere, or print it out if you can't do that. Print out some choice pages of stuff to put up around the place. But always try to have lots of stimulating material around yourself when you're practicing and drawing. Like, if you want to learn anatomy, if you're struggling with anatomy, put like lots of anatomy reference around you while you're drawing. You'll be glancing up at there. You'll start solving anatomy problems while the anatomy reference is up around you. That's why artists get stuff like those sculpted anatomical model reference statues. I want to get one of those in the future for myself. They can glance over it or look at it if they need to solve something, if they need to solve a problem with anatomy structure. Anyway, we're gonna call it a night here, but we're gonna stay in my Discords because we're gonna watch some Invincible. So yay!
Alright. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.